What's up, y'all? It's your boy Tevin Jameer back at it again with another episode of the Hate It or Love It podcast. And today, as you guys can probably tell from the title, today we're gonna be talking about Lil Durk and this whole situation with him. Basically, how he just got jammed up and how it's pretty much looking like his career is over. Now, if you guys been living under a rock, you don't really know what's going on. This past weekend, Lil Durk got locked up for basically being the one to hire the hit on Quando Rondo a couple years ago. I'm not going to go too deep into it because I've talked about this a couple of times on my podcast. Basically, like the whole situation with Lil Durk, NBA YoungBoy, how that started with King Von and NBA YoungBoy basically sleeping with the same women and stuff like that. And things transpired to where King Von died. And then, like, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, Quando Rondo stopped at a gas station with his crew, and basically there was a bunch of masked men that came up to the gas station, shot them up, and Quando survived, but his cousin Lil Pop died. And yeah, basically this is where we pick up now. Ever since the whole gas station situation thing kind of happened, like everything kind of died down since then, at least in the streets. I forget like if any songs came out after that and stuff like that. Well, I know Lil Durk did make a song sampling Quando Rondo, like in the video when he found out that his cousin died. But as far as anything else like that, I don't know. I don't remember if anything musically happened after that. But as far as like street wise, at least that we know, that was the last that we knew of what was going on in that situation. And pretty much it was like sometime last week, the dudes that was the ones that was in the hit wound up getting locked up. And basically, from what we know, Lil Durk kind of knew his time was up. Apparently, he was booking flights to 3 different areas, Italy. Um, I know that he was planning on actually going to Italy, but apparently he booked flights to like 3 different areas, Italy being one of them. But they got him in Florida. They pretty much got him in Florida. And I don't know if he's still being held in Florida as of me making this video, or if he did go back to California where the shooting took place. But basically, he is going to be taken to California. And from everything that we know, this is a Fed case. And pretty much the feds don't come at you unless they know they got something on you. Um, Pretty much, there was something else. There was some other piece of information that I'm forgetting. But basically, as of right now, oh yeah, so it's a Fed case. And a lot of people are saying that right now it's kind of looking like, Lil Durk's career is over because, either they're going to try to give him the death penalty or either they're going to try to give him life. Not even just for the hit, but it could be a bunch of other stuff because an essential part of the story is that there are 2 members, from what I read from different articles, there are 2 members that apparently wore a wire around Durk for like the past 2 to 3 years. And one of them has been pointed out as OTF Jam. Now, that's the one that a lot of people are saying is the informant, the one that was wearing the mic. So I can't say for sure that I know that it's him, but that's one of the people that people are saying that was the one wearing the wire and stuff like that. So OTF Jam basically got Lil Durk jammed up. So I'm not making this video to report what happened because, I'm not here to report. That's not what my podcast is for. It's not for reporting. It's for talking about it, and it's for like giving my thoughts on this whole situation. So pretty much how do I feel about this whole Lil Durk thing? To be honest, this feels very unfortunate in my opinion. Like this is a very unfortunate situation, but it's unfortunate in a lot of different ways. And like I said, I've talked about this topic of Lil Durk and NBA YoungBoy and all the people that's beefing in their camps. I've talked about this on past episodes, and one of the episodes that I talked about this on was one called "You Live by the Sword, You Die by the Sword," where I pretty much talked about how King Von, he was someone that lived by the sword, and that what caused him to die by it. And there was like another episode. There was multiple times where I talked about this, where I was saying live by the sword, die by the sword, but I also was talking about how us as rap fans need to acknowledge basically the role that we play in some of these rappers' downfalls. But also at the same time, the rappers also need to acknowledge their part in these downfalls. Because as I think about this Lil Durk situation, so let me tell you why I feel it's sad being a fan of Dirk and stuff like that. Now I'm not the biggest Dirk fan. I can't say that I'm someone that as soon as he drops an album I go listen to it day one. I still didn't even hear his last album, but I would consider myself a fan of his. I do like a lot of his music and stuff like that. So why it's sad as a fan of Dirk is like, he's been around for a good minute. Like, and I'm looking at this strictly as a hip hop thing when I say a fan of Dirk. He's been around for a minute. He was one of those dudes in the Chicago drill scene, or basically drill music in general. He was basically one of those iconic figures in the drill movement. And a lot of people don't like it. A lot of people always say that Chief Keef started drill. He didn't start drill. He was a very big component of why it got popular. But and I'm not saying Lil Durk started drill, but if you look at the drill movement, Lil Durk basically had one of the first few biggest songs in that movement. And truth be told, I think because he came out with L's anthem, and I remember hearing people blast L's anthem before I ever heard people blast Chief Keef. So Lil Durk was definitely a very iconic figure in the drill movement, and he's one of the people. Whether people like to give him acknowledgement for it, he's one of the most influential people basically in rap music today, because we always like to say that drill had a big impact on the rap industry, and a lot of people like to point that only to Chief Keef, but we also got to point out other drill figures that made rap kind of what it is today, like Lil Durk, Lil Reese, Young Chop. As far as production, like they all played a big part in what music became today. So Lil Durk, he's a very iconic person as far as rap. And it's sad because it seemed like Lil Durk was always the one of the more smarter ones. I was talking about how on one of the episodes that like nowadays it seems like rappers, they do what they do in the streets, they build up their names and stuff like that. And like back in the day, rappers would build up their names, they would do what they do in the streets with the goal of not, still being in it once they get on. And with Lil Durk, he seemed like one of the more smarter ones. Like he seemed like he was going to be one of those people where, he did what he did, his past is documented, so it's not like, he can hide it or anything like that. But it seemed like he was going to be on a better path, as he got famous and stuff like that. And, for a while, it seemed like that's what the type of time he was on. It seemed like he was, going to take that more smarter path. But unfortunately, because of everything that happened with King Von, basically this man slipped up off his path, and now he's in a position where all of that work could probably lead to nothing. And that's why I feel like it's sad as a Lil Durk fan, because it's like, damn, like, this man, he basically played a big part in like hip hop culture. He played a big part, not even just that, but also in my childhood. Because like I said, I remember being in middle school when Chief Keef was blowing up, and like me and my friends was always blasting Chief Keef music. But around that same time, we was also blasting Lil Durk. And actually, I found out about L's anthem because of my older brother, because he was the one that put me on the Chief Keef. And he also put me on to Lil Durk. And I remember listening to L's Anthem and Bang Bros for the first time because of my brother. So, basically this man also played a part in like the rap music that I was into as a kid. So it's just like, as a fan of Durk, and for a long time seeing him actually make a better situation in his life, better situation for his family and kids and stuff like that. It's sad to see that it all resulted in this. But where I can't say now, like I said in past episodes where I talked about stuff like this, it can be sad as a fan, but also at the same time, it can also like not be sad, because at the same time, you kind of put yourself in this situation, even when people was warning you not to put yourself into this situation. So I know this is a situation where like there's a lot of layers and a lot of ways to look at it. That's why I don't really necessarily see the situation as like a black or white situation. There's a lot of gray into it. There's a lot of points where people can understand. Like, so when I say that this is a very complicated situation and stuff like that, and where I say it's gray is obviously me speaking as someone that's not in the streets. I mean, but then again, I don't feel like you need to be in the streets to understand the concept of if somebody, hurts one of your family members, hurts one of your friends, naturally as a human being or naturally as someone that's loyal, you're going to want to, get back at the person that hurt them. You might not necessarily want to kill them, but you still have that instinct to like, you mess with somebody that I love, then I'm gonna mess with you, or I'm gonna mess with somebody that you love. So I feel like you don't even need to be in the streets for that. I just feel like if you actually love somebody or if you actually care for somebody, then you can somewhat see where Dirk was coming from. Because here's the thing, when Lil Durk died, there was a lot of people that was talking about some slide for Vaughn, and a lot of people was egging Lil Durk like we haven't already known that he was about this life. It's just like you guys are treating him like he's a fake person. Like we've seen, it's been documented a lot of the things that he's done. So why people was trying to egg him on, saying like slide for Vaughn, just didn't make sense. But a lot of people was telling him to slide for Vaughn, and you can tell that it was kind of getting to him because he acknowledged it in songs, he acknowledged it in interviews, and then the gas station shooting happened, and there's this one viral clip that keeps going around from DJ Academic's interview with Dirk, where he straight up, said like he brought up the slide for Vaughn thing, and Lil Durk was like, for some reason people don't say that no more, or some reason it's been dying down, and see, that's the thing that makes this so complicated because it's like people was egging him on, but at the same time, he is still the person that he is. Just like I said, he's always been that way. So why people was egging him on like he wasn't going to do something? I'm pretty sure even before people was trolling him, he was already planning something. So it's like, you know, he was already the way that he was. So even if the troll comments wasn't coming, I still feel like he would have done something to Lil Pav, and that's or Taekwondo Rondo, and that's what makes this situation so sad because it's like I understand where you're coming from, but it's like you were in a position where you were able to change not just your life but your family's life, your kids' life. You were in a very good position. You were at the top of the rap game, and I understand that when somebody that's close to you and that you care about gets hurt, you don't think like that. But it's like a lot of people was trying to warn him of that. Just as much as people was trolling him, a lot of people was trying to warn him that you can make this cycle end. You can move on. You can dead this situation right now. And there's this clip of Wallow from I think it's $1 Million Worth of Game podcast. I don't really watch the podcast, but I see a lot of the clips from the podcast that go viral. And there's this clip of Wallow where like where they did an interview with Lil Durk, and he was talking about how when his brother got killed, he could have easily got revenge and let it consume him and let that destroy his life. But he said that he did the hardest thing, which was forgive, so that he could become a better person and that he could be able to take care of his family, and he could reach the heights that he's at now. And it's sad because Lil Durk up to this point seemed to have been doing that, but now it's just like damn. And I'm not trying to paint Lil Durk as like some type of saint because he still was making drill music. He was still mocking, his dead ops. He was still talking all that shit. But at least up until the whole King Von stuff started happening, at least he didn't outright get involved. At least from what we know. That's what I want to preface by saying. At least from what we know, we didn't see him, actively play a part in it until all the King Von stuff, started going down. So it's like, damn, like this situation is just a very sad one, and it's also one where it's like, you know, you should have done better, but at the same time, it's just like I understand where you're coming from, and that's what Wallow was trying to tell him. It's like, yo, I understand where you're coming from, but trust me, that's not the route that you want to go. And the crazy thing is, I be talking about this situation with people. Um, I talked about this situation with one person where they always tell me that my thoughts on it is invalid because I'm not in the streets and stuff like that. But then when I talk to other people from the streets, they tell me that, yeah, what I'm saying does make sense. But at the same time, it's kind of like what I'm saying. Like what I'm saying makes sense, but at the same time, once you're in that situation, it is really hard to let that go. And I'm not saying that it's an easy thing, and I'm not gonna sit here and act like that. If I wasn't in his shoes, it wouldn't be a hard thing for me to do. But it's just like these are the things that you got to think about when you step into that lifestyle. And this is where I want to open it up to like anybody that's in that lifestyle, anybody that's even thinking about it. You know, when you look at this Lil Durk and NBA YoungBoy, or however you want to look at it, King Von and Quando Rondo situation, no matter how you look at it, OTF versus 4K Trey, however you want to look at it, this whole beef basically showed us the result 9 times out of 10 whenever you get into that lifestyle. You either end up dead or you end up in jail doing life or something like that. Because now NBA YoungBoy, he's basically going in and out of jail for things unrelated to this, but he's still in jail regardless. Quando Rondo, from what I heard, he's basically like in a situation where he's gonna have to surrender himself eventually. I don't know his full situation, but that's what I've heard that he's going through. King Von is dead, and from what, like I said, Lil Durk right now seems to be in a position where, because of all the wire, wearing, and because of the fact that the fact that the feds know that he basically called the hit on Quando, it basically is looking like he's either going to do life or get the death penalty. So basically, this whole situation, this whole beef alone just shows you this is what results when you get into that life. Like you're just going to end up either being in one of those two scenarios. Now, there are some people that is fortunate enough to get out and for the most part be fine, because even when I talk to people that were in the streets, they always say like, yeah, you can get out, but there's always going to be some type of sacrifice, or there's always going to be some type of thing that you lose in order to get out. So it's like there's never really a happy ending, to be honest. And truth be told, the closest thing is that these rappers do kind of get the closest thing to a happy ending in this situation. Lil Durk literally could have had that happy ending, but he was someone that still had a foot in the streets, and it's like, nah, man, you got to make that decision when the checks start coming. Either you keep that foot in, or you keep both feet, in the rap music. Don't get too deep into it, especially when you have that chance to get out. So I don't know, man. I really wanted to talk about this because not only just because I've been talking about this situation for the past few years, but also just because it is really a sad thing. And like, even though I'm young, so a lot of people won't. Well, then again, people be calling me Unc now. People be saying I'm old now. I'm only 26. I don't really feel like that's old, but you know, I wanted to talk about this because, everybody knows somebody that's involved in some type of activity. Everybody knows, people in that life. But it's like we got to try to encourage, people to get out of it. We got to encourage people to do better and stuff like that. Because you know, I wholeheartedly agree with people like Wallow and other people that's been in these situations. Even though I've never been in these situations, I wholeheartedly agree that it got to take somebody to dead these situations to put on a better example for people. Because it's just like, you know, it is sad. And one thing I will say is, you know, even if somebody does step up and basically dead these situations, sometimes you got to find it within yourself to do that just as well. So even if Lil Durk did end the situation and he didn't keep it going, I don't know why I felt like I kept hearing somebody outside, but basically, even if Lil Durk dead the situation, that might not necessarily stop, regular people, but it can play a part in, eventually leading up to something. I almost kind of think of the way that I'm thinking about this. I know I'm kind of like rambling right now, but the way that I kind of think about it is kind of like what Tupac said. Like, even if I don't make a movement, what I do can still influence the person that starts that movement. So even if Lil Durk deaded the situation and maybe only like 5 people, took his situation and was like, you know what, I can dead my situations with my ops too. Like, even if it only took 5 people, that can still make some type of chain reaction. So that's why I like to talk about this stuff, because it's like I want to give people something to think about, and I really want to see us do better. Like, not even just as a hip hop community, but even just as a black community, because that definitely plays a part in this. And apparently Quando Rondo put out like a statement basically saying like, how can I keep attacking people that look just like me? And as much as I don't like Quando Rondo, to be honest, I definitely agree. And I always tell people that all the time. It's like, while I'm not in the streets and I know there's a lot of history behind, the people going to war and stuff like that, at the end of the day, we need to, do better as a culture. We need to do better as people. We basically need to like come together, because this is what they want from us. I talked about this in one of my other podcast episodes, where I'm like, a lot of the crime that be happening, a lot of the gang wars that be going on in these cities and stuff like that. At the end of the day, this is what they, and y'all know who they is, this is what they want us to do. So it's like, that's why I always try to speak my mind, and I always try to, say my opinion on this situation, because it's like, whether you're from the streets or not, at the end of the day, I want to see my people, I want to see our culture be better. So, you know. I know this is more of a serious episode than I typically do on my podcast, but I really do feel like this is stuff that need to be talked about, not even just for Lil Durk, because the whole Lil Durk situation, that's unfortunate, but I feel like this is something that brings a bigger dialogue to like how people be moving in the streets, how we can talk to the youth about getting into it. And I mean, technically you can say that I'm part of the youth too, so like, even to my peers, like, even if you in the streets and you just randomly clicked on this podcast, or even if you feel like I'm some type of square or nothing like that or something like that, like, no matter what you think of me, listen to my words and listen to what I'm saying, that like, at the end of the day, I just want to see you, as a black man to another black man, or just any black youth that's thinking about being in that life. I'm coming to you as, your brother. Like, I'm coming to you as someone that just wants you to know, like, I just want you to do better. I want our community to do better. So, like I said, this is a very important topic to me. And, like I said, at the end of the day, I always say I want us to do better. So, like I said, man, I know this is more serious than I usually, do for podcast episodes and stuff like that, but this message needs to be, spread. We need to have these conversations in order for change to, start happening. So, let me know how y'all feel down below. If y'all even feel like that I'm just talking out my ass, like, just say whatever you got to say. But at the end of the day, this is the Hater or Love It podcast. No matter if you love or hate what I had to say, at the end of the day, we need to have these conversations. So, yeah. Like I said, man, I'm trying to stay consistent with the podcast for you guys. It took me a lot to set up this whole camera and all that today, but I was like, you know what? I gotta give something to my fans. I know people been waiting. I'm kind of recording this episode later than I usually would. Usually I'd be recording this before Tuesday, but I'm recording this on Tuesday. So hopefully I can try to get this episode out by tonight. I really don't want to give y'all a Friday episode, so I'm gonna try to get this episode out to y'all by tonight. Um, but yeah, like I said, whatever y'all got to say about the topic, leave it down below. Let me know what y'all think. And I'm going to, like I said, consistency. So next Tuesday, I'm going to give y'all another episode. And also, look forward to Thursday on Halloween. Look forward to my Blu-ray collection video. I'm really looking forward to that one. So yeah, with all that being said, Tevin Jameer signing out. Catch y'all on the next episode.